Okay, Tony. Well, I know a lot of people like fishing off the shore for bass, and obviously a lot of the bigger bass come from the rough ground areas, and that's quite an art form when fishing in the rough ground. Not a lot of guys sort of specialise in it, and you were a bass specialist. I think you should give us a few of your tips.
Yeah, there's two sort of ways of fishing for bass. Well, obviously there's loads of ways, but up Beachy Head, what I used to always do is fish very conventionally, and I'd use like a normal rod, 12 foot
Yep.
copper rod, but the other and this is one that Julian Shambrook has just given to me. It's a any fish anywhere, lovely fishing rod, quite powerful, but sometimes on the rocks you need to be a bit rugged and get the thing in when you get a bite, and don't,
Yeah.
don't mess about. But I tend to use a normal rod up Beachy Head, but there is another way of fishing where you can fish a light bass rod, 1 to 3 ounce, and you can have a lot of fun bassing, and you fish in the surf with poppers and different things and
Yeah.
all sorts. But I found when I fished up there, it was pretty rugged, pretty conventional,
Yeah.
and I'd use a big hook, chuck a big bait, like a big crab bait, and really sort of like get stuck in with it. as
What
such,
sort of
you know what
lead
I
would
mean?
you need up there, then, Tony?
I always
Big
used
leads?
what a lot of people do when they're bass fishing, Graham, is they'll use a rolling lead. Okay?
Yeah.
Now I've always had the theory up Beachy Head is quite rocky, and I've found quite often a rolling lead with the tide at Beachy Head will roll into the rocks and may get trapped.
Yes.
Can fish like this, no problem, but I always tended to fish with a normal breakaway impact lead. When I used to go there a lot, the impact lead wasn't formed. It used to be a roundabout way that you clip it down and whatever. But basically, a proper sinker rather than using a roller.
Just a
because I
bolt,
found
yeah.
it rolled into the rocks quite often. You miss bites as well quite often. Whereas this way, although it was a running rig, you could hold the rod and strike it, because it's a little bit different with bassing. You can strike, you with me?
Now you're not fishing two rods, probably up there in a tripod.
Never a chance.
You're
I did
holding.
did it very professionally. I never ever fish with two rods. I just fish one rod and concentrate like mad on it.
And hit that bite when it comes, yeah?
And what you do is you use a pulley type rig, which is great because you tie your main line to this swivel at the top, and then you'll clip. Because quite often, they say bass are in the first two waves, and like
That's it, and the surf.
they are on the surf beaches. But when you get on the rocks, sometimes you've got to chuck it, and if you can chuck it a lot further, sometimes you'll pick them up. Invariably they're in close, but sometimes they're further out. If you clip this down behind the lead, you'll find you can chuck it further, and what actually happens, it all comes off when it hits the water, and then when you actually hook a bass, what you'll find is your fish will be on the hooks here. Okay, so you've hooked the bass. This will pull through the swivel, and as you're reeling in, this lead will come to the top, this
I see.
sinker. So what actually happens is you're pulling that through the water from this swivel, and basically that will come to the top, and your fish is behind. So you've got less chance of that snagging the rocks. That's the idea of a pulley rig. They're absolutely brilliant for skate fishing in Wales and stuff like that.
So,
It's
so
superb. Use
down
a
like
pulley
North
rig all day
Somerset,
long.
Bristol Channel, where you've got to get off the
big
rough
fish
ground.
rig, get it up off the bottom, get that lead up in the air, and you'll get your fish trailing behind it. One of the other things I found with bassing is you want a nice big crab bait on here. So what I do is you'll put your bait on here, and basically you can tend to mask the hook because it's a big bait. So what I tend to do is I used to always use a pennel type thing, and you've only got to wrap that round a couple of times. There's loads of ways of doing it. You can do it with tubing, whatever, but just wrap it round a couple of times. Put your main bait on this one, maybe a couple of legs on there if you want to, or a couple of claws, but basically leave them hooks so that when that fish hits it, it's a big fish, the barbs are clear, so that you're not masking the hook. It's a big thing with bassing. You miss a lot of bites, and you wait all that time for a big fish bite, and then you go and miss it. You don't want to, do you?
Not really. You
So,
want
there's nothing worse.
use what to bind that bait on? What would you use to keep
You
that
use
crab on
elastic
there?
cotton, and you want nice fine elastic cotton, and you actually mummify the bait so it's really like juice all over your hands, and you want a real good compact bait on there that's full of juice, and it'll look brilliant when it's done. I mean, maybe when we go to the pier this afternoon, I'll bait one up with crab and
Maybe
show you how it
put
works.
one out,
Yeah. The other thing I found that was quite interesting is because I was missing a lot of bites, I devised this rig here, I normally tie this, I'll be honest with you, with clear amnesia. But these two I've got here, they got black on, but it's not the end of the world. If the water's coloured, it wouldn't make no difference. But generally, I like to use clear when I'm bassing most of the time.
Yeah.
But what happens with this is I found this, I was playing about in the shop, and I might have to take you over here to show you how it works.
Okay, let's
I'll
go
tie
over
it,
there.
But these are two 79515 Mustad BR hooks. Ever so sharp. They're quite old fashioned, but they'll never let you down. They don't bend out. They're beautiful hooks for bass and coding, and they're very strong. Now, what I found, I was playing about in the shop, and I found by accident, I used to miss a lot of bites up there. And you wait a long time for a bite for bass. It's a long wait, and you go and miss it. It's soul destroying.
Gutting.
So what I've done is I've played about in here, and I've got this. I put these two together like that, and then if you get your length of trace and just come round once, twice, and then you just pull it up from there, pull that knot up, it creates a figure 8, which is a real strong knot, a water knot. Just wet your knots, always wet your knots before you pull them up, and that pulls up into like a wishbone rig. So there you got your two hooks, okay?
Yeah.
All you've got to do is cut one of these lengths of line like that. There you have your body of your rig, your trace.
Yeah.
What you can do then is you'll find that you'll tie that onto a swivel, which is your
trace,
your snood line, okay?
Yeah.
But what happens is you've got two hooks here now, and like I said earlier on, you invariably mask a hook with a big crab bait. You'll find it's covering all the hook, and you miss these bites.
Yeah.
So what I used to do is I used to put them back to back like that, put my crab on the middle, so therefore when this bass comes in, if you can see here,
Yeah.
he is going to catch them hooks.
If
Okay,
one's
you
going
bind
to
this
get
with
him.
lots of cotton. I mean, optional, you could wire that together, but I don't bother. It's just a wishbone rig, and I find that I can put my bait on both sides if you want, but just make sure that whole lot is together. It's the same length, and what you find is you've got the hooking power, and you'll invariably that fish will get hooked.
And you won't
You've got
miss
a
it.
single hook, and you miss them all day long. So they're pretty crafty in some ways, bass.
Yeah.
They can be. If it's rough, sometimes they just hit it, and you just get
Hook yourselves.
yeah,
Always.
but if it's a flat sea and all that, it can be a bit finicky. And I've always found, I'd love to see it on film, but I've found that I watch my rod steadily, and I've found that you get a little bite first, quite
Yeah.
often, and you might not even notice it, and then all of a sudden, whack, the whole lot goes. But I'm sure that they come up and have a little look around first.
maybe mouth
sometimes.
it or bump the line or something.
Yeah, that's right. I'm nearly positive they do. They come up, have a little look. If it's rough, it's a different matter. They come straight charging in, and the rod goes straight over, and off they go. You know what I mean?
Now you're casting into like rocky gullies, clear patches between the gullies up there,
Yeah,
are
you
you?
look for sort of like a nice sort of spot where there's a lot of rock, and then maybe a gap in the rock or whatever. You know.
So pay you to anybody's going to think of doing that rough ground fishing is to go down low tide
You've
first,
gotta
check
go,
your venue.
You've got to go down and find where you're going to fish. There's conventional marks up Beach Head. We fish all the time, and they work really well.
Is it a low water venue really? You know, you fish from the low up?
It's
or-
low water first hour and a half up, and then basically it's high tide after that. You know, you'll catch them on high tide hour down.
Now, when you get pushed, have you got to cast farther and further? When you get pushed back in by the tide, do you change gullies, or you're still trying to target the
Still
main
target
gully?
the same area really. As I say, you know, if you find that you'll just get them wherever, but sometimes I've been up there, they're under your feet.
Yes.
And another night you want to pendulum cast it as far as you possibly can, and you'll pick up bites when you're not.
Yeah.
You just have to just work it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, you can use similar rig with the sand eels, probably a pennel rig type thing. You know, I've actually caught bass up there on whole mackerel as well. I've fished
Yeah.
with Joey's, and they're not live.
Yeah.
Lovely if you get them out there live, be deadly. But I've actually chucked them out, and I've caught 7 or 8 pound bass, quite a few of them on whole mackerel.
With a lead or like
It's a strange
just the
thing
weight
with
of
a whole
the
mackerel. They tend to pick it up, and you think it's a conger. They keep going. It's a different world. It doesn't quite
different bite.
don't do the same thing as a crab bait. You know, it's totally different. You know.
So
But,
over the two, what would you recommend rough ground? Either sandal or a mackerel then, small Joey
I would
mackerel or
say a
section?
small a mackerel bait,
Yeah.
especially September. Come to September, and what they do, they come in and they have a right old feed up. When
Yeah.
you get into September, they'll eat anything: squid, mackerel, most didn't get this in earlier on. Most of the holiday makers
Yep.
are the people who catch the 12-pound bass. Believe me, I've been here 40 years.
Why is that?
And most, well, because they chuck a great big bait out. They're on holiday. They don't even look at it, and all of a sudden they're jumping around, and they've got this huge fish. And I fished up there for nearly 10 years, and like I say, I had some huge catches. My biggest bass on the beach is £9 too. Most of the good bass anglers, that's about their biggest bass.
Yeah.
They don't have 12-pounders, but it's always a holiday maker.
On a big
Don't
bait.
ask, on a big bait, I think that's
Yeah.
what it is. And I'm not prepared to sit up there with big bait, but I'm prepared to go up there with crab and catch bass.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and I don't go now, but I used to go all the time, and you get a feel for it, and you do it.
What was your best catch up there, Tony? What sort of size
Best
of
catch
fish?
is this one. It was on the front page of Angling Times.
Yeah.
It's over on the wall there. It was
Yeah, I'll
1981.
hold the bottom up. You hold the top there.
And a lot of people think I caught these out of a boat, and I didn't.
Yeah.
It was 1981. John Darling photographed it. He's dead now, bless him. This one on the ground here is £9 too. This one is £7.14. Sorry, £8.14, and this one is £7.12. And they were all in Angling Times front page. Unfortunately, a few jealous people thought they were caught on the beach,
Yeah,
on the boat.
on the boat,
They
yeah.
wasn't. I caught them all at the Sugarloaf at Beachy Head, all in one night. My pal Trevor Rooney was right next to me, and he didn't have any, bless him. But the guy who was with me had two,
Yeah.
and it's just one of them particular nights when it just all clicked for me.
Crab?
I also had a £2, just over a £2 silver eel on the same
Really?
night.
All on crab, though,
And
Tony?
a massive pout, all on crab, yeah,
Yeah,
and all
yeah.
within about 2 hours.
Oh, really?
It just went mental, you know. And they're all obviously there was a shoal there, big uns,
Yes, yeah.
and I was lucky.
Now-
Trevor was the other side; he didn't do nothing wrong. They just wasn't on the other side of the beach where he was.
Now, a lot of stuff I read in some of the magazines now is about lure fishing off the rocks and stuff like that. And can you catch them over those
Yeah, I've got a
those
lot of-
gullies and rocks
I'm
and
not,
that?
I'm not an expert on lure fishing. I'll be totally honest with you. I always fish with crab up there and fish conventionally.
Yeah.
But people like my mate Keith here, who does a bit, they fish with these lures all the time, and they're ever so successful. They get a lot of them.
Are they using
And
plugs
it's
or
becoming
what?
more popular, plug-in and all this kind of thing, and it's brilliant. And some of these lures they buy, they're 18 quid each.
And what sort of lures are they? What do they call those?
Well, they're just sort of like a variation of Rapalas and things, you know, and
Yeah.
they're just superb. They're all from Japan, and they're quality things.
Now, would you rough ground like that? Would you
Surface ones. And
would you fish trebles on those or singles? Do they change it for snagging
No, I
up
fish
wise?
trebles.
You
Yeah,
fish,
they'll
still fish
treble
trebles
hooks,
with them, yeah.
As I said, invariably, people have had them off the beach. My mate Derek had one of nearly £15 on the beach, and they are huge. But it always seems to be the guy who just goes up there for a day, and he walks in here, and he's got a £12 bass, and it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, so they are
And,
up there.
but obviously, you know, there is a lot of my friends who've been up there when I used to go up there. They've had 10.5,
Yeah.
11-pounders. I just never got lucky with the big ones. But
Well, you
I caught
got lucky-
I caught enough of them.
You can say you caught enough of them, Tony, so
Yeah.
everybody knows that. Well, I appreciate that. Listen, that's good. There's a few tips there for anybody who wants to go rough ground fishing for bass and what tackle and what rigs. And that pulley rig, I can see, you know, down the North Somerset coast where it's all long casting over big boulders and that. I can see that's an ideal rig for getting up off the bottom. So that's rough ground bassing. So fingers crossed, I shall use that rig and the telephone
it
mic
just-
rig.
It just gives you, you know, as I say, the main thing is that brings it straight up. That's the main thing.
Yes.
That fish, that weight will come up to the top, and you're reeling it in, and your fish is trailing.
I can see
It
the
gets
the
that weight
principle
off
of
the
that.
bottom
Yeah,
pretty
straight
quick.
out, straight off the
And that's
bottom.
the idea of a pulley rig. It will come straight up
Yeah.
once you've struck, and you've got that fish on there, and you can deal with it a lot better, rather than having your weight get caught up. And as I say to you, it's Hobson's choice with what you want.
Yeah.
I always use the fixed lead, just the way I fished up there.
Exactly.
I fish very conventionally, like beach fishing, but other people use a bomb. I found the bomb rolled into the rocks
Yeah.
quite often. It just ruins you. Sometimes it would ruin you, and you miss bites as well.
And any tips on that rough ground fishing? You know, spring tides, small
You
tides.
definitely want long tides, whatever happens. You've got to have a long tide. I mean, I used to go on the 7.8 tides and the 7.5s. I'd never go up there. I've gone up there on the short tides and had a bit of success, but then fish feed when there's
A lot of movement.
Yeah, a lot of movement.
Yeah.
And I used to make sure I went on the biggest tide every month, always. Round about July was good.
Yeah.
But a lot of them in September, they have this feed up and they go mad sometimes. You can go up there one night and there's nothing there.
Yes.
No matter what you do, you will not get a bite. And you go up there the following night and they're just going mental, you know.
Just as you take it.
So
Well,
it's
that is bass fishing, Tony. So
Yeah.
I appreciate those tips. I'm sure the anglers
Most of the time,
appreciate.
weather makes a difference.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
obviously, if it's nice and rough, you're going to get more.
Yeah, like it stirred up, don't they? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, there's a few tips there, guys. That'll give you something to be going on, and fingers crossed we get down and do a shore fishing video in the gullies and actually show you some fish. Tony, thanks very much, mate.
Cheers, Graham. Thanks very much. Okay, Graham, this is a bit of frozen crab that I froze in the winter, and I quite often use it for bass. I find fresh better, obviously, but somehow we've got to use something. So this is how I put it on the hook. I've got some fine elastic cotton here, as you can see. Buy that in any shop for about £1.50. Good stuff. The way I put it on is I basically would come through this side bit there, bring it to the top. It's not crucial how you put it on, it's just a question of getting it on that hook nice, and when you've got small crab you go through the leg sockets and everything, but with this kind of bait for a big fish you just want to get it on there and mount it. Give it plenty of cotton. A lot of people don't put enough cotton on. See the juice coming out of it even though it's frozen? It's pouring out, isn't it, just as I'm putting it on here.
It's like barbecue sauce.
Yeah, it's lovely stuff, and you can see the juice coming out on this table. And this is basically, just make it look quite pretty. Try not to mask the hook too much, like I said to you on the early video. Just keep it all nice and compact. Almost like a sausage, look, if you can see here.
You can see the juice coming out, and presumably
I mean, if
the
you
bass and any fish is going to smell that.
Well, even I could eat it if I was a bass. It's absolutely beautiful. Seal it off a couple of times, couple of knots, nice and tight. That's probably about the finished product. That looks really good, you've got to admit. You're not going to not want to eat that, are you?
Not if you're a fish.
Now, what I tend to do is, on this spare hook at the top, which is your extra one for hooking, I'll bring that down and I'll probably just twist it 2 or 3 times round there.
Just to lock it?
Yeah, the best way to do it is with tubing, but it's quite simple, this. Sometimes I hook it just into the edge there, sometimes, just to keep it neat, but it does tend to rip the crab if you're not careful.
Yeah.
So, and then I don't know why I do this really, but I often put a couple of legs or something like that.
A tip, like a tip?
Yeah, just, I'm going to do it neatly. Sorry, I've done that a bit of a mess, but almost like the old Muppet Chef, ain't I, yeah? Just thread a couple of little legs on the line, perhaps cover the hook, I don't know. Don't have to, just gives it a nice presentation. And basically that's the finished product, really.
So it's big bait for a big bass then, really?
Yeah, and of course, like I was saying to you earlier on, when the bass comes in for it, you've got plenty of hooking power there. You've got 2 hooks, quite neatly, you know, rigged up. Job done, really.
And you fire that out on a clip down rig with a clip, yeah?
Yeah, or you can even drop it over the side because it's just a cracking bait, you know, and you'll find that it's easy to cast. You can clip it down on this pennel rig, like I said, on this pulley pennel. It'll go a nice way. If you want to chuck it, clip it on there. Main line will go on the top here, as you can see. It's awesome. Totally awesome.
So you've got it, Tony. You've arrived. Yeah. You've ever arrived.
But that's spot on. I mean, there's no reason a bass ain't got to eat that.
Yeah. Good big bait.
Cracking bait, yeah. And it'll even catch anything, you know. It's just basically a bass bait, cod in the winter maybe, but you could catch anything on that. You could catch big, you know, big
rays,
sort of dogfish.
Yeah, thornbacks.
Great. This is great for smoothhounds in the summer. You know, about July, August, and that's just a cracking smoothhound bait, see what I mean? But that's the main thing I wanted to get over to you, even though that's frozen. Look at that juice that's come out of there.
Still come out.
And I'm now going to get banned from the pier, I expect, any minute.